why is there a shift or an apparent shift in vision? And is this marketplace sort of the right way to see interchain security moving forward?
Yes. Yeah. There has been a shift in vision, and you're right that you described the sort of strategy, from last year pretty well. And I think the reason we're shifting is because, I think that the overhead of governance ended up being, more than we expected, and the overhead of making every validator get on board. And I think that one of the points of friction that happened was that you'd have chains where, you'd let's say Neutron, for example. Neutron is there's a little bit of a split between Atom token holders, I felt, and validators. So where for a token holder, if you have Neutron on board, that's very good because Neutron is a leading smart contract platform in Cosmos, and that's having them on board is only good for a token for an Atom token holder. It's like that's great to have them in. For validators, token holders don't really necessarily face any costs for every new consumer chain. For validators, they do, and so that was a point where if you have this curated model in this decentralized context, it becomes pretty tough to sort of like it's hard to do that sort of curation with a very decentralized, community and ecosystem because like you can't necessarily nobody can go and say, look, this is how it's going to be done. These are going to be the chains we're going to have. Nobody has that authority actually in the Cosmos Hub. I certainly don't, and not even people who are very well like Ethan or something or Zucky or Jaquan or whatever. People who founded it don't even have that authority. So I think we kind of realized that we need to go, since it is such a decentralized community and ecosystem, we need to go for more free market model and kind of let things evolve versus having a model that depends on kind of curation. So I think that's why we shifted strategies. Another thing I will say though is there's another improvement coming in the new version of ICS, which is something I wrote about on the forum, but is not really. I don't think a lot of people have paid attention to it, but I think it is pretty important, which is that validators will be able to set their own commission rates for each consumer chain. So right now, how it is the validators charge a commission. A lot of them charge 5%. That commission applies to their Atom validation, and then also applies to any rewards that come from the consumer chains. And so validators generally don't want to change that because they don't want to raise their commission, makes them less competitive. With the new version of ICS, they're going to be able to say per consumer chain, they're going to be able to say, hey, this consumer chain is a little expensive to run. I'm going to be charging 20% on this one. And
Yeah.
so it's going to let them really dial it in a lot more and kind of do better for, being able to get the economics exactly right. So that'll help as well. But I mean, that's sort of the reason we've shifted it.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I mean, like taking a step back and looking at, I think, what has really been a prevailing advantage of Cosmos, maybe over, I like sort of a tangent here, but I like to compare Cosmos and Polkadot as the cathedral and the bazaar, where Cosmos always took this very market-based approach, and Polkadot had a more central decision-making approach. And I think that has been very important to the success of Cosmos and the flourishing of ideas in Cosmos. Now that makes things very messy, and that's normal, and like governance is messy and decision-making is messy. But in the end, I think you get something that's much stronger, much more resilient, much better. And for the long term, this idea of having a more market-based approach for interchain security feels more in line with the Cosmos vision.